The observation window stretched 50 meters across, a sheet of reinforced glass that separated Commander Olivia Brennan from the void. She pressed her palm against the cold surface, watching Earth rotate below like a blue jewel suspended in darkness. Somewhere down there, her daughter was probably sitting in third grade, learning about the solar system, unaware that visitors from beyond had just arrived to claim it. The alert sirens had been screaming for 3 minutes now, but Olivia barely heard them anymore. Her mind had gone quiet, the way it always did before a storm. She had learned this trick during her years as a fighter pilot, then as a tactical officer, and now as the third in command of Orbital Defense Station Sentinel. When the universe threw chaos at you, you found the calm inside yourself and held onto it like a lifeline. Behind her, the command deck erupted in controlled panic. Officers shouted coordinates and threat assessments. Holographic displays flickered with data that made no sense. Captain David Ortega stood at the center console, his weathered face illuminated by red emergency lights. He had commanded this station for 8 years, had fought off pirate raids and defended supply convoys, but the expression on his face told Olivia that nothing in his experience had prepared him for this. Next to him, Lieutenant Benjamin Wu frantically worked the communications array, his fingers dancing across haptic controls. Ben was 26 years old, fresh out of the academy, brilliant with technology but still green when it came to actual combat. His hands shook as he tried to establish contact with Earth Command. The main display dominated the far wall, a screen 10 meters tall that normally showed peaceful traffic patterns and scheduled cargo flights. Now it showed something else entirely. Ships. Thousands upon thousands of ships, arranged in perfect geometric formations that hurt to look at. They hung in space like a swarm of mechanical locusts, each vessel roughly the size of a terrestrial city. The scanner had counted 12,000 so far and was still climbing. Olivia moved to her station, her boots magnetic against the deck plating. She pulled up the tactical readout and felt her stomach drop. The alien fleet had appeared instantaneously, no warp signatures, no hyperspace distortions, nothing. One moment the space beyond Jupiter had been empty. The next moment it was filled with an armada that could crack planets. "Captain Ortega," Ben called out, his voice cracking slightly. "We are receiving a transmission. It is broadcasting on every frequency simultaneously. Every human colony, every station, every ship in the system is getting this right now." "Put it through," Ortega said. His jaw was set, his eyes hard. The screen flickered. Static washed across it, then cleared. A face emerged from the darkness, and Olivia felt every instinct in her body scream danger. The creature was enormous, its head alone filling the entire display. Crimson skin stretched tight over a skull that seemed carved from volcanic rock. 3 eyes arranged in a triangle gazed out at them, each one glowing with inner fire. When it opened its mouth, Olivia saw row upon row of crystalline teeth that looked sharp enough to cut steel. A mane of what looked like living metal framed its face, each strand moving independently like the tentacles of some deep-sea horror. "I am Supreme Commander Vraktos," the alien said, and its voice was wrong. Not because it spoke English, though that was unsettling enough. The wrongness came from the sound itself, as if multiple voices were layering over each other, harmonizing in frequencies that made Olivia's teeth ache. "I represent the hierarchical sovereignty, the oldest and most powerful civilization in this galaxy. We have governed these stars for 70,000 of your years." The alien paused, letting that number sink in. 70,000 years. Human civilization had barely existed for 10,000. Your species has expanded beyond your homeworld. This was permitted as an experiment. We wished to observe your development. That experiment is now concluded. Vraktos leaned forward, and those 3 burning eyes seemed to look directly at each person watching. You have 72 hours to comply with the following terms. All human military vessels will power down their weapons and surrender to sovereignty forces. All orbital installations will transfer control to our administrators. All human colonies outside your home system will be evacuated and dismantled. Your species will be confined to Earth, under our supervision, for the next 500 years. During this time, you will provide labor, resources, and genetic material as required by the sovereignty. Genetic material, Ben whispered, his face pale. They want to breed us like livestock. The alien continued as if it had heard him. These terms are not negotiable. They are not subject to debate. 23 species before you have stood where you stand now. Some accepted our dominion and were allowed to continue existing in a limited capacity. Others refused. The screen changed, showing images that would haunt Olivia for the rest of her life. Planets burning. Cities melting. Beings that looked almost human but not quite, screaming as they dissolved in beams of light that looked like liquid fire. The 15 species that refused our mercy no longer exist. Their worlds are sterile. Their cultures are erased. Their names survive only in our databases as examples of foolishness. Vractos reappeared on screen. You have 72 hours. Use that time wisely. Consider your children. Consider your future. Consider that defiance means extinction, while submission means survival. The choice is simple. We await your answer. The transmission ended. The screen went dark. For a long moment, nobody on the command deck moved. Nobody spoke. The only sound was the quiet hum of the station's life support systems and the distant rumble of the docking bay airlocks. Then Captain Ortega laughed. It started as a small chuckle deep in his chest, then grew louder, echoing off the walls. He laughed until tears ran down his weathered face, until he had to grip the console to stay upright. Everyone stared at him like he had lost his mind. Maybe he had. "Captain," Olivia said carefully. "Are you all right?" Ortega wiped his eyes and looked at his crew. His smile was fierce and wild and completely unexpected. Did that overgrown lizard just threaten my planet? Did it actually show up here with its fancy ships and its ancient empire and tell us to bow down or die? "Yes, sir," Ben said quietly. "That is exactly what it did." Ortega's smile grew wider. He opened a channel to Earth Command, to every military installation in the solar system, to every ship and station and outpost. When he spoke, his voice was clear and steady and filled with something that sounded like joy. "This is Captain David Ortega of Defense Station Sentinel. Message to all human forces. The aliens want an answer in 72 hours. I say we give them one right now." He paused, then said the words that would echo through history. "Tell those things that humanity does not kneel. Tell them we have a different response. Tell them to come find out what happens when you threaten our children." Olivia felt something ignite in her chest. Around the command deck, she saw the same fire lighting up in every face. Ben straightened at his console. The tactical officers checked their weapons systems. The fear was still there, but now it was mixed with something else. Something dangerous. Ortega looked at Olivia and nodded. "Commander Brennan, sound general quarters. Prep all defense platforms. Get me every ship that can fly and every weapon that can fire. We have 72 hours until their deadline." He showed his teeth. "Let us make sure we use that time wisely. 68 hours remained." The Solar Defense Council had assembled in an underground bunker beneath Geneva, carved 3 kilometers into solid granite. Olivia stood near the back of the chamber, her dress uniform feeling strange after weeks in her station jumpsuit. Around her, the most powerful leaders of humanity argued with the passion of people who knew their decisions would shape history. President Carmen Rodriguez of the United Earth Coalition stood at the podium, her dark eyes blazing. She had been a soldier before entering politics, had fought in the resource wars of the 2040s, and it showed in the way she carried herself. Behind her, a holographic display showed the alien fleet in terrifying detail. "Some of you want to surrender," Rodriguez said, her voice cutting through the noise. You want to believe that submission will save lives. You look at their numbers and their technology and you conclude that resistance is suicide. Her hands gripped the podium. I understand that fear. I feel it too. But let me tell you what submission actually means. She gestured at the display. The aliens showed us their terms. 500 years of servitude. Genetic material, they said. Do you know what that means? It means they will take our children. They will breed us selectively, like cattle, to produce whatever traits they desire. It means our grandchildren will grow up as slaves, never knowing freedom, never knowing what it means to be truly human. A delegate from the Asian coalition stood up, his face pale. But the alternative is extinction. They have 12,000 warships. We have barely 300 combat-capable vessels. The mathematics are clear. General Hassan Kimathi of the African Defense Force rose to his feet. He was a mountain of a man, nearly 2 meters tall, his voice like rolling thunder. The mathematics are irrelevant. My ancestors fought with spears against machine guns. They won. The Vietnamese fought against an empire with helicopters and bombs. They won. The Afghans fought against superpowers with rifles and determination. They won. Do you know why? Because they had no other choice, someone whispered. No, Kimathi said firmly. Because they refused to accept the reality their enemies tried to impose on them. Because they understood something that these aliens do not. That humans do not calculate odds before deciding to fight. We fight because fighting is better than the alternative. The chamber erupted in debate again. Olivia watched it all with growing frustration. Every minute spent arguing was a minute not spent preparing. She caught President Rodriguez's eye and saw the same thought reflected there. A voice cut through the chaos, quiet but commanding. Everyone turned to look at the speaker. Dr. Rebecca Okonkwo was 83 years old, a physicist who had pioneered humanity's understanding of quantum mechanics and helped design the faster-than-light drives that had carried humans to the stars. She rarely spoke at these meetings, preferring to let politicians do what they did best. But when she spoke, people listened. We are asking the wrong question, Dr. Okonkwo said softly. We debate whether to surrender or fight, but the real question is this. What do the aliens actually know about us? Silence fell across the chamber. They know we have expanded into space, the physicist continued. They know we have ships and weapons. But do they know what we are capable of? Do they know our history? Do they understand what makes humans different from the 23 species they destroyed before us? What are you suggesting? Rodriguez asked. Dr. Okonkwo smiled, and there was something sharp in it. I am suggesting that they are making assumptions based on incomplete data. They see a young species with primitive technology and assume we will react like all the others. Submit or be destroyed. But they do not know about the Alamo. They do not know about Thermopylae. They do not know about the countless times in human history where a smaller force held off a larger one simply because they refused to lose. And more importantly, she continued, they do not know what we have been working on for the past 30 years. The chamber went very quiet. Even the politicians who thought they knew everything looked confused. What are you talking about? Someone asked. Dr. Okonkwo gestured to her assistant, a younger man named Thomas Chin who carried a secured data pad. Project Prometheus. It was started 3 decades ago when we first encountered evidence of ancient alien civilizations. We hypothesized that eventually we would meet someone who saw us as inferior. Someone who might try to conquer us. So we prepared. She activated the holographic display. The image of the alien fleet disappeared, replaced by something else. Blueprints. Weapon specifications. Ship designs that looked nothing like the vessels currently defending Earth. For 30 years, she said, we have been developing technology in secret. Directed energy weapons that can punch through shields we thought impossible. Quantum torpedoes that bypass traditional armor. Stealth systems based on bending space-time itself. And most importantly, something we call the Cascade Protocol. What does it do? General Kamathi asked, leaning forward. Dr. Okonkwo's smile grew wider. It turned stars into weapons. The silence that followed was absolute. Olivia felt her heart hammering. She had security clearance for most military projects, but she had never heard of this. You are insane, someone said. Perhaps, the physicist agreed cheerfully. But consider this. The aliens want an answer in 72 hours. They expect us to calculate the odds and surrender. They expect fear. What they do not expect is for us to attack first. 40 hours remained. Olivia was back on Station Sentinel, standing in the retrofit bay watching engineers work. The station had been transformed. What was once a peaceful commercial hub now bristled with weapons that had been kept in sealed storage for decades. Plasma cannons extended from newly opened ports. Missile tubes loaded with the quantum torpedoes Dr. Okonkwo had described. The entire station had been covered in stealth plating that made it nearly invisible to sensors. This is incredible, Ben said beside her. How did we build all this without anyone knowing? Human ingenuity, Captain Ortega said, walking up to join them. When we are at our best, we plan for the worst. He looked tired, his eyes rimmed with red, but there was energy in his voice. The entire fleet is being upgraded. Every ship, every station, every orbital platform. In 40 hours, we will hit them with everything we have got. And the Cascade Protocol? Olivia asked quietly. Already in position, Ortega said. We moved the generators into place 3 years ago, disguised as asteroid mining equipment. When we activate them, he paused, his expression grave. The aliens chose to position their fleet near Jupiter. They thought the gas giant would provide resources for their invasion. They did not realize we chose that location for them. What happens? Ben asked. Ortega looked at the young lieutenant. We turned Jupiter into a bomb. 24 hours remained. Olivia stood in the fighter bay of Station Sentinel, running her hand along the hull of her interceptor. The ship was small, barely 15 meters long, but it had been her home for countless patrol missions. Now it was armed with weapons that hadn't existed a week ago. The metal felt warm under her palm, almost alive. Around her, pilots prepared their own vessels. There were 30 fighters on this station, 30 pilots who had volunteered to fly directly into the teeth of an enemy fleet that could swallow suns. Nobody had been ordered to go. Nobody had hesitated to sign up. A young pilot named Rachel Park sat nearby, writing a letter on an old-fashioned piece of paper. She was 19, the youngest person in the squadron. Her hands shook slightly as she wrote, but her jaw was set with determination. Olivia knew what the letter said without reading it. They all wrote the same message. Goodbye to parents, to siblings, to lovers. Promises that they would be remembered. Hopes that their sacrifice would mean something. You don't have to fly, Olivia said gently. Nobody would think less of you. Rachel looked up, and her eyes were clear. My grandmother survived the Shanghai floods. Lost everything but kept going. My grandfather fought in the Australian wildfire wars. Nearly died 3 times but never quit. She folded the letter carefully. I come from a line of survivors, Commander. People who faced impossible odds and decided that giving up wasn't an option. How can I do less than they did? Olivia felt something catch in her throat. This girl should be in college, should be falling in love, should be discovering who she wanted to be. Instead she was preparing to die fighting creatures from beyond the stars. It wasn't fair. It wasn't right. But it was necessary. Across the bay, she saw Captain Ortega speaking quietly with each pilot, gripping shoulders, looking into eyes, making sure everyone understood what they were about to do. He moved like a man who had already accepted his fate and found peace with it. Ben appeared at Olivia's elbow, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Real coffee, not the synthetic stuff from the dispensers. She took one gratefully and sipped it. The bitter warmth spread through her chest. "I called my parents," Ben said quietly. "Told them I loved them. Told them not to watch the news for the next few days." His laugh was shaky. "My mom cried. My dad just kept saying he was proud of me. I don't think he understood what I was really saying." "They understood," Olivia assured him. "Parents always understand." "Did you call your daughter?" Olivia nodded. Emma was 7 years old, all bright eyes and endless questions. She had asked why Mommy sounded sad. Olivia had lied and said everything was fine, that she would be home soon for her birthday next month. The lie had tasted like ash, but what else could she say? That her mother was about to fly into hell itself? That there was a good chance she would never come home? "She asked me to bring her a star," Olivia said softly. She saw a picture of a nebula in her school book and decided that stars must be the most beautiful things in the universe. "She wants me to catch one and bring it back in a jar." Ben smiled despite everything. Kids have the best requests. The intercom crackled to life. "All personnel, this is command. The alien fleet is moving. They are advancing toward Earth. Time to deadline, 18 hours. All combat units, prepare for immediate launch." The fighter bay exploded into motion. Pilots ran to their ships. Engineers performed final checks. Olivia drained her coffee and handed the cup back to Ben. "Take care of Station Sentinel for me." "I will," he promised. "You just come back." She climbed into her cockpit and ran through the pre-flight checklist with practiced ease. Around her, engines ignited. The fighter bay filled with the howl of 30 ships preparing to launch. Through her canopy, she could see Earth hanging in the void, so small and fragile and impossibly precious. Captain Ortega's voice came over the squadron channel. "Listen up, people. In a few minutes we are going to do something that has never been done before. We are going to charge an alien fleet that outnumbers us 40 to 1. We are going to fly into weapons fire that could vaporize us in microseconds. We are going to face an enemy that has conquered 23 civilizations." He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was filled with fierce pride. "And we are going to show them why that number will never reach 24. We are going to teach them that humans do not surrender. We do not kneel. We do not go quietly into extinction. We fight. We rage. We burn so bright that the whole galaxy sees us coming." The bay doors opened. Space yawned before them, infinite and cold and filled with enemy ships. "This is for Earth," Ortega said simply. "This is for our children. This is for every human who ever looked at the stars and dreamed of touching them. Launch." 30 fighters screamed into the void. The alien fleet was massive beyond comprehension. 12,000 ships arranged in geometric perfection, each one bristling with weapons that had ended civilizations. They hung in space like a wall of steel and death, waiting for humanity's surrender. They did not expect humanity to attack. Olivia's fighter was part of the first wave, 30 vessels against thousands. They came in fast and low, using the moon as cover before breaking into open space. Her targeting computer screamed warnings about missile locks and energy signatures. She ignored them all and focused on her objective. The quantum torpedoes launched. 40 of them, each one no bigger than a person, each one carrying destructive force that bent the laws of physics. They streaked toward the alien fleet like comets made of light. The aliens responded. Energy beams lashed out, thick as buildings, bright as suns. 2 fighters to Olivia's left simply ceased to exist, vaporized so completely there wasn't even debris. Rachel Park's ship took a glancing hit that sent it spinning, but the young pilot regained control and kept flying. The torpedoes struck, but it wasn't enough. The alien fleet was so vast that losing 10 ships barely made a dent. They began to return fire in earnest, and the space around Olivia became a storm of death. She flew like she had never flown before, instinct and training merging into something beyond conscious thought. Her ship twisted and dove, rolled and climbed, dancing between beams of annihilation. Captain Ortega's fighter took a direct hit. Olivia saw it happen in slow motion, saw his ship come apart in a bloom of fire, saw his final transmission cut off mid-word. The man who had commanded Station Sentinel for 8 years, who had laughed in the face of an ultimatum, was gone. But his sacrifice meant something. While the aliens focused on the fighters, the real attack was beginning. Every human ship in the solar system activated their stealth systems and advanced. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers, everything that could fly and fight. They had been hiding in the shadow of Earth's moon, invisible to alien sensors, waiting for this moment. 300 human warships against 12,000 alien vessels. The odds were still impossible. But humans had stopped believing in odds a long time ago. Dr. Okonkwo's voice came over every channel, calm and steady. Cascade Protocol is armed. Firing in 10 seconds, the aliens finally noticed the trap. They tried to move, tried to scatter their fleet, but they were too slow. They had positioned themselves perfectly to exploit Jupiter's resources. They had walked right into humanity's weapon. The quantum generators activated. Hidden among Jupiter's moons for 3 years, disguised as mining equipment, they had waited for this moment. Now they released their payload directly into the gas giant's core. Jupiter began to collapse. It didn't explode the way stars do in movies. Instead, gravity itself became a weapon. The massive planet compressed, its core reaching pressures and temperatures that should have been impossible. And then, like a rubber band stretched too far, it snapped back. Space itself seemed to scream. The quantum warheads didn't just explode, they created cascading failures in reality. Shields that should have been impenetrable collapsed. Armor that had survived supernovas cracked like glass. 7 alien ships died in the first salvo, and the shock wave from their destruction took down 3 more. The energy release was visible from Earth. A flash of light so bright it could be seen in daylight, followed by a wave of force that expanded at nearly the speed of light. The alien fleet, positioned perfectly to harvest Jupiter's gases, was caught in the middle of a miniature supernova. 4,000 alien ships simply vanished, torn apart by forces that unmade matter at the atomic level. 3,000 more were crippled, their systems failing, their crews dying as life support collapsed. The remaining 5,000 ships tried to retreat, but human forces were waiting. The battle that followed lasted 8 hours. Human ships struck and vanished, reappeared and struck again, using guerrilla tactics that the aliens had never encountered. Every time the enemy tried to form defensive positions, quantum torpedoes would tear through their formations. Every time they tried to retreat, human fighters would harry them, bleeding them with 1,000 small cuts. Olivia fought until her ammunition was gone, until her ship was held together by emergency seals and prayer. She watched friends die. She watched impossible acts of courage. She watched Rachel Park ram her damaged fighter into an alien cruiser's bridge, buying time for a human destroyer to escape. She watched humanity refuse to surrender. When it was over, when the last alien ship had either fled into hyperspace or been reduced to glowing debris, Olivia found herself floating alone in the dark. Her communications were damaged. Her engines were failing. She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt peace. Through her cracked canopy, she could see Earth. Still blue. Still beautiful. Still free. Her daughter would grow up on that world. Would go to school and fall in love and have dreams. Would never know what it meant to be a slave. Commander Brennan, a voice crackled through her damaged radio. This is Station Sentinel. We have your position. Recovery ship is en route. Ben, she said, and her voice was hoarse. Did we win? There was a long pause. Then Ben laughed, and it was the most beautiful sound she had ever heard. Yeah, Commander. We won. Humanity is still here. We are still free. We are still us. Olivia closed her eyes and let the tears come. Tears for the fallen. Tears for the survivors. Tears of relief and grief and joy all mixed together. They had faced extinction and chosen to fight. They had looked at impossible odds and said no. They had proven that some things were worth dying for, and freedom was first among them. The stars had brought visitors who demanded surrender. Humanity had laughed and shown them what it meant to be human. To struggle. To sacrifice. To burn bright even in the face of darkness. To never, ever give up. In the distance, Earth continued to spin, a blue jewel in the endless night. And around it, humanity stood watch, bloodied but unbroken, ready for whatever came next.